All right, kids, let's keep going here this evening. It's a Monday evening. We're getting ready for a day tomorrow that has no major news on the economic calendar. So that's why it's going to be very important that we take time tonight to be ready for whatever can possibly happen tomorrow. Without any major news, just as we talked about in the first part of this newsletter, we're going to be listening in for events coming out of China, coming out of Russia and Ukraine. And of course, who knows? We may also hear tomorrow from our President Obama tomorrow if he decides to shake things up and make a comment about what he's seeing in Russia. So you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. We never know what's going to happen any day of the week. But tomorrow, a day without any major news, but knowing that we have all this chaos kind of going on in the Ukraine and Russia, we know this may definitely impact, for example, we know it's going to be playing a big role in crude. So guys, let's jump right into it first here this evening. Now, boy, at first glance here, it may look like, where's everything else? There's nothing else on this chart. Here's the VIP chart of crude oil, and yeah, you do not need to adjust your television sets. That issue developing in the Ukraine and Russia has people concerned about supply of the black gold. Now, just to give you guys a heads up, we have seen this many times before. We're going to see this many times again. Something happens in the Middle East or wherever it is around the world. Usually it's centered around that Middle Eastern corridor of the planet. And when it happens, all hell breaks loose, prices jump higher, and sure enough, what happens a couple days later? You got it. It comes right back down. So if you missed the move up, so did I. Most people did too. Most people were sleeping when this move happened early on Monday morning, late Sunday night. So if you missed the move on Monday going higher, we had some sideways slop and chop today, but we made some great money on crude today, buying lows, selling highs. Even though we had a big jump up like this, it still wasn't a guaranteed bullish move. We saw the first 15 minutes was pretty sloppy. So what's our plan for tomorrow? Well, first of all, an opening print above 105.22, and we are bullish. An opening print below 103.90, and we are bearish. Today we had a higher or bullish two-day relationship. The range was very wide. We had a middle close, closing print near the middle, and we had volume near the middle. So basically, here's what happened. News happens over the weekend, Sunday night, early Monday morning. In other words, in the Asian and London trading sessions, it pushed price higher. By the time we got our hands on this in the U.S. session, this price had already calmed down. And as we said this morning in our trade room, if you're with me in my trade room this morning we saw, 200 ticks of range and like 75,000 contracts of volume. So that gave us all we needed today to know it was going to be a range-bound day today. So we were ready for this range-bound day. But this type of environment leaves the door wide open tomorrow for who knows what can happen. I get that prior week high at 103.45. I could just so easily see us gap up at the open and have another big day higher tomorrow morning. Just as much as I can see this thing cooling off in Russia, people taking a break and thinking, maybe it's not that bad, and price comes back down, or this very balanced range with very balanced volume. If nothing happens here in the next 24 hours, we got no major news, we may sit right inside of that range. Bottom line, if we open above 105.22, I'm looking for buys. Doesn't mean I'm guaranteed to get them, though. I'm going to wait 15 minutes and see who wants to take control. If we open below 103.90, again, I'll be looking for sells. Nothing guaranteed, though, because what we oftentimes see is if we gap up or gap down, we oftentimes see a fill of that gap. So if price was to gap up here tomorrow morning, I'm first going to look for price to pull back, fill the gap, and then give me the chance here to start buying again. It's all going to come down tomorrow morning to what we see at the opening bell. So be with me tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and we'll do our opening bell analysis, because right now that's about all we can do as far as predicting or anticipating what's going to happen next. At least we have our levels, though. We know what our levels are, 105.22 and 103.90. So those are our levels for tomorrow. Moving forward here, going to an anchor chart. Now, I've been using this anchor chart here. You can see this high back here at August 28th. So 08, 28, 2013. You got this low down here. This is recently January 10th. So you can see how much 4 months, 120 days makes there. So high of 112.55, low of 90.67, 91 even or so. You can see we're right in the middle of this range right now. Guys, whenever we're in the middle of a major anchor chart range like this, we know that anything can happen. I can go higher to 107.95, or I could roll over and go to 98.14. Really, anything can happen from here. One very important thing, though, is you'll notice that we've successfully closed above the 104.34. So this is going to be bullish. This is a very bullish clue, the fact that we're able to stay above that 104.34 today. But again, I'd be lying to you right now if I told you I knew what tomorrow was going to bring. All this chaos in Russia, news out of China over the weekend. Guys, it's so much easier for me to be technically prepared and then react. So, for example, let's say that overnight there's some more news out of Russia and price starts to move higher, and it moves higher quickly. Well, when I get to this 107.95, that's anchor chart resistance. So I'm looking for a reversal or at least take profit there. So use these levels of areas of support and resistance for places for profit targets if you're already in a trade, or reversal points to get into a new trade going with the trend. All right, so use that anchor chart. So as you can see, we've made it above this sell zone here. Now the question is, do we keep going to 107.95, which is what should happen, or do we get sucked back down in and start slopping around inside this range here we've been stuck in? We've been stuck in this range here for about a week and a half. So it's been a little bit frustrating, but, you know, like I said today, on Crude today, we picked up right away on the range-bound market, and we used that range-bound market to make some pretty good money. It doesn't need to be going in one direction for us to make profit as day traders. It's one of the best parts about the job that we have. So we know that we're bullish, but we're wondering, are we going to continue to go higher here? Moving forward, here's a 21 anchor chart. And what I want you guys to see here as I zoom out is the fact that we have a relatively significant bullish channel here. I mean, this bullish channel goes all the way back to the beginning of January. There's that January 10th, 2014, which you saw on the other anchor chart. So you can see this is definitely no slouch of a channel. And what I'm going to do on this channel is I'm going to follow the trend. I'm going to try to be a buyer here. But what do I always say, guys? What do we always talk about when it comes to a channel? Bullish channel tells me what? Buy. Buy where? Buy at the lows. What does a bullish trend tell me to do? It tells me to buy at a discount. So no matter how you slice it, whether you want to buy at the lows or buy at a discount or buy in a pullback, whatever terminology you use to describe that, I do not want to be a buyer right now. Where are we right now? Would you say this is priced at a discount, or is that priced at a premium? Well, it sure as hey is not a discount. That's for sure. So what I'll do is I'll wait for price to pull back and look at how nice we have a setup here. 103.25, guys. It doesn't get much better than that. I would love to see this price pull back, give me a chance to buy around this 103.30, 103.25 area. Many of my members right now are probably saying, look, Joe, that's the bottom of a bullish channel. That's the perfect place to buy. Absolutely it is. So I know exactly where I want to be buying, guys. 103.25 to that 102.79 area. Really, as long as I get around this 103.50 area, I'm now down around those lows. So get me in for a long 103.50 down to as low as 102.79. I'm looking for that buy at the bottom of that channel. Now, what if we just go higher? Well, if we go higher, we have a little bit of some trouble here. I've got resistance here, which I'm going to use as targets. So if I can get into a buy here at 103.25, I'm definitely in the mood to take some profit off at 105.40, at 106.60, and of course at 108.07. I know 108.07 seems ridiculous right now, but this is crude we're talking about, right? This is crude we're talking about. This is no sleeper. This thing will move. So be aware, I've got targets above me at 105.40, 106.60. I'm going to have to use the top of this channel, so keep an eye on the top of that channel. Depending on where the top of that channel is when you use it, that will be resistance. But guys, if we jump up higher, I'm going to have to wait for price to then pull back. I'll have to give you guys some updated analysis tomorrow morning if we end up going higher here. So one of the perks of being a student in my trade room is you can come in and join me any day of the week, Monday through Friday between 8 and noon, and I will give you the updated guidance on any of these charts. So don't be bashful. Come out tomorrow morning and join me as a student in the trade room, and I'll update the charts as I see from there. But we know that 103.25 is the best spot for us to be a buyer at this time. Moving forward here. Now, this is a very short-term anchor chart, the 13 anchor, and the 13 anchor does a great job at showing us just how difficult this price action has been over the past few hours. You can see we've got higher lows, lower highs, some flattening of the moving averages. You'll notice here that we had that nice big run up, and you can see it happened all on Sunday, right? Between Sunday and Monday. So Sunday and Monday morning, bright and early Monday morning, that was where we got that big move up. Pretty much the entire session, this is really important, the entire session on Monday in the U.S. morning and the afternoon was pretty much sideways. Like I said this morning, at 9 a.m. this morning, we had already made pretty much our range highs, right, at 104.97. We ended up making a high here at 105.22, but collapsing back down. So this chart still telling me we're bullish, but what it basically tells me right now is that a wise trader is going to wait here now to see what happens overnight and find a trend going into London and the U.S. session tomorrow morning. This is really difficult as we stand right here to make any long-term predictions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell highs, I'm going to buy lows, and you can see here I've got 104.18, I've got 105.09, 104.18, 105, 104, 105, 104. So we have a range-bound market. So buy those lows, sell those highs. If we do happen to get going higher here, I have a target up here at 105.43, 105.79. So if you get a chance here, you can buy this 104, hold on to a runner, and see if you can get lucky here for a breakout at 105.79, 105.43. Again, though, as of right now, the beginning of the month, with all this chaos coming out of Russia and Ukraine, I'm going to opt to be very patient and disciplined and wait for tomorrow morning's opening bell to see what the case is going to look like tomorrow morning. If you're trading overnight tonight, though, buying 104, selling 105, staying away from this middle. Don't go near this middle, guys. 104.50 area. Stay the heck away from that area because that will be where all the slop and chop is done. If we happen to tumble, if we happen to get below the 104.18, we should move down to 103.11. So be on the lookout. If we happen to fail, look for a wave pattern short. Look for an entry pattern short down to 103.11. And again, if we do go higher here, we get some targets overhead. Just be aware, don't trade directly into those targets. Biggest thing I see, though, on this crude is that it looks like at first we had a big move up. But when you look at it in terms of what happened in the U.S. session, you'll see here that pretty much right about 9 o'clock is right there. So we pretty much made that move already overnight. And then here in the U.S., it's just been sideways. So as far as I'm concerned, I need more information. I need more information. If I'm going to trade this evening, I'm going to do it carefully by buying the lows and selling at those highs. All right, so you got your plan here. Long-term bullish on crude, short-term sideways on crude. Don't say I didn't warn you. Moving forward here from our gold, from our black gold to our gold. Here's another market that reacted very well over the weekend. What happened to gold? Well, we had news from China. China came out with an 8-month low for manufacturing, and whenever we see China with low manufacturing, it causes everyone to worry about the manufacturing, about the economy, about the global strength of the economy. What happens when people are worried about the global economy? People move their money from equities over to gold. That's why this morning equity markets went lower, gold went higher. Makes perfect sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, come out and see me tomorrow as a student, and I'll teach you more about what I know about this stuff. It's really not that difficult once you understand which market's affected by, right, which developments. So moving forward here, we can see today we had a 2-day bullish relationship, right? Big gap up, big gap up. Got this big gap up here from last Friday until Monday morning. Typical trading range, you'll notice here we close right in the middle. Very interesting there. To see a big bullish move like this, but then have volume here, volume here, volume here. We got volume everywhere, and we got a closing print right in the middle. So just like I said on crude oil, this is not the end of the world. This is not going to continue forever. This is just that knee-jerk reaction to what we saw come out of China. In the case of gold, in the case of crude oil, it was the news out of Russia. What do you always hear me say? Big pops equal big drops. So just as quick as it went up, it can come right back down. So if you miss the move up, be prepared technically and psychologically for this price to come right back down. Get a nice big gap to fill down here so we can easily see this thing start to really move well if we can get some action on the downside. Bottom line though is I got to come in tomorrow morning and see where we open the day tomorrow morning. Open above 55, I'm bullish. Open below 44.6, and I'm bearish. If we open below 44.6, you know where I'm hunting for, that gap fill. If we open up above 13.55, you guessed it, $1,400 an ounce. So I'm looking for here for gold. If we get above that 13.55, we are most likely going to be cruising here, maybe up to 1,400, maybe not. We'll see what happens though. So bullish above 55s, bearish below 44.6. And again, I would expect here with this range, with this closing print in the middle, this is anybody's ball game now on gold. Buyers or sellers can take this thing from here. Moving forward here now, we continue with these very slow anchor charts, and you can see kind of the progression of how gold, I thought this was incredible to see that gold had double bottomed here once in June and then once. That's remarkable. I mean, just remarkable. The fact that we made the low there on December 31st, are you trying to tell me that there isn't something bigger than just a bunch of traders out there? Guys, if you don't believe in the wisdom of crowds, if you don't believe in the mass chaos theory, you got to learn about those. You got to learn about those because this is not a coincidence, right? It is not a coincidence that halfway through the year we made a low, and then the second half of the year, on the very last day of the year, we make the exact same low. It doesn't happen. It's not a coincidence, right? This is mass chaos to its right at its finest. So very, very interesting. Now, what you can see on gold here, though, is we've made it through the 41.9. So we've made it through this area. That tells me next up is this trend line. So we got the big round number, 1,400. We got this sell zone overhead. I've got the trend line here overhead. So as you can see here, next stop should be that trend line resistance, which could be as early as 1370, right? Could be 1365. We'll have to wait and see when we get there. Moving forward, though, 21 here on gold. We can see this long-term bullish channel that we found on gold. One thing we can easily see, though, is that gold in the big picture is up near its highs. Now, you've heard me say it once. I'll say it again. I want to buy at a discount, not at a premium. So what I'm looking for now is I want price to come down if I'm looking to buy, and I'm going to use this 1355 and 1357.8. Those are my targets overhead. Now, I am at the highs right now. So what does that tell me? When do I want to trade at the highs? I want to sell, right? I want to buy at lows. I want to buy at discount. I want to sell at premium. I want to sell at highs. So what that tells me is that I have a chance here now to be a seller on the way back down to this 1337, 1332.9. So I've got short-term selling opportunities as we come off these highs. long-term buying opportunities at that 37, and I'm going to use that 55, 57.8, and I got one more up top here at 1368.2. Those are going to be excellent profit targets for you as we go higher. But again, in the short term, though, I would expect price to pull back a little bit. So let's take a look here at a faster anchor chart. Here's the 13 anchor. Here we go. So now we have some information we can use here. Short term, we have this bullish channel. Now, it looks like we have the ability right now to start buying. Okay, so look for a buying opportunity here at 1348.8. If I do get long right now, I have targets above me at 1355, 1361.3, and 1364.7. Those are, of course, in addition to that 1357.8 that I found on the 21. All right, so toss that right in here, and now you get a good little collection of support levels to work with. So remember, we are in the big picture, we're up near the highs. But if I start seeing this thing go higher here now, I have the green light that I need to start looking for a buy here. So don't be bashful about buying once we saw that short-term bullish channel. But we got one thing to be aware of. If we can sneak below 1343.9, we should then move lower down to that 1337.2. So here's the way the ball bounces. I'm going to buy it at 1348. I'm going to buy it at 1345. But if I get below that 1343, let's just say 1342.5. If I get below 1342.5, I'm selling it off here down to 1337, and then below that at 1332. So it's bullish here until I get below 42.5. Then I will adapt my strategy to trade short down to that 1337. That's the first level. And of course, 1332.9. That will be the bottom level of this range. So I can use those both as profit targets. And then you can see here you got last week's close, right? Last week's open as some magnets down here, 1328.6, 1325. Alrighty? So we know what we're dealing with on gold here. Short term, we're buyers. Long term, we're buyers here on gold right now. But again, don't take my word for it, guys. Come out and see me tomorrow morning at the opening bell, and we'll go over it in real time. Moving forward here now, the mighty mini Russell. Now, the Russell has been on a roller coaster ride the past few weeks. Today, of course, the Russell got beat up by that manufacturing number from China. We saw a lower day today. Two-day range is lower. A pretty typical range. This was not out of the ordinary here for the Russell, so nothing really out of the ordinary there. We had a closing print today near the highs, so that's bullish. And we had a volume print today near the highs. You'll notice we had a double distribution day here on Russell today. But the majority of the volume, though, you'll notice was just above, look closely, the majority of volume today was just above yesterday's range. Look at those candlestick wicks. Look closely. Wick, 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 and wick. We were unable to close back below that 73.9 high. So all signs on the Russell tell us right now that we should be rising going into tomorrow morning. Now, once again, you guys can't, right? We can't predict on this, so we're going to wait and see what happens here overnight. But bottom line, though, is an opening print tomorrow above 79.2, and I'm looking to be a buyer up to that 87.3, right? Prior week high. An opening print below 62.1. Now I'm looking for sells. Remember, nothing's guaranteed, so I still have to wait for the pattern. But if I get an opening print below that 62, we should be able to get short here down to that 45.1. Just remember, though, if we gap up, we typically pull back before we go higher. If we gap down, you're probably going to see price retrace higher before it goes lower. Now, sometimes when it gaps down, it just never looks back. It just keeps on cranking in one direction or the other. But that doesn't happen very often. So just be aware of that. All right, if it gaps up or gaps down, it's usually going to try to fill that gap before it goes in the direction of the gap. All righty. So we get a pretty typical range, but the volume here, though, being above last Friday's lows, the closing print barely holding above that 73.9. That tells me that these buyers wanted to keep this thing higher. It tells us that the manufacturing news from China was probably not enough to keep this market down for very long. Moving forward here, here's another very slow anchor chart here on the Russell, and we can see here right now we have this very long-term bullish channel. I have some projections up top here using symmetry at 12.27 even. So that's a really easy long-term projection for the buyers out there. And I also have some great opportunities here for us to be a buyer. So at 1135.9, 1122, and then sure enough, there's our bullish channel low, 1102.8, 1191.2. So it would be great to be able to get price to come back. I'll buy it with a target at 1227. What would be even better would be if I could get price down to the lows of this bullish channel, because you know me, guys, that's where we get the best opportunities to be a buyer, the lows of a channel, and we'll look to buy those lows as well. I'm always going to be a little bit suspicious if we do happen to get down as low as the 1078 area here. I will continue to be a buyer here until I get below 1070. We'll say 1070, and then I can start looking to be a seller here on the Russell. All right, just a little bit of heads up there on the 34. Let's go a little bit faster, though, here on a 21. The 21 shows us a lot more detail here now. And you can see on this 21 here, we got lower lows, we got higher highs. I drew that trend line in there just to kind of show you here where we may have some support coming out later on. But this is looking a lot like crude oil, isn't it? At first glance, it looks very bullish. But you can see here, though, look at closely here. We had the beginning of the session today at 9:30. We have been sideways the entire session on Russell in the U.S. Just like what happened on crude. It all happened in Asia and London. By the time we saw this, it was going sideways. But by the end of the day today, though, we had made a good jump higher. So what I would do is be a buyer at 67.4 and be a seller at 90.1. Right? Buy lows, sell highs. Buy lows, take profit at highs. Sell the highs, take profit at the lows. That would be, of course, until we see the opening bell analysis tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. on the mini Russell. Okay, so these big dramatic moves, it's going to be best for us to wait patiently and see who really has control over this tomorrow morning. You can see, though, we have a bullish trend right now. So I am going to be a buyer in the long term here on the Russell. Moving forward from the 21 now down to the 13. On the 13 anchor, there we go. Now we're starting to see where we need to be looking for. I have a buy opportunity here at 1170.7. And I've got targets up top here now at 84.4 and 86.9. Okay, so be aware of these targets overhead. If we're getting long, 84.4, 86.9, 90.1, those are good targets. Again, I want to buy at a discount. Would love to buy this 1170 to 1168 area. If I get all the way up here, I'll take my profit. And then I'll look for a short here, but again, we'll have to wait tomorrow and see who has control over this. If the buyers are in control, I'm not going to go looking for a short at 86.9. I'll just sit on my hands, wait for a new higher high, and we'll go long from there too. So don't forget, if you're buying here on Russell, use these levels as your targets overhead. Use the 1170.7 as your buy zone below. If it doesn't pull back to the 1170, that's okay. Wait for a new higher high and then wait for it to pull back, and you got yourself in for a wave pattern long going higher. All right, pretty easy scenario here on Russell. But again, just want to remind you guys, for all we know, it's been a sideways range for a day. So this could be sloppy here overnight, and again, very range bound going into tomorrow morning. I'm going to really be patient this evening to wait for tomorrow morning's opening bell analysis, because you can see there's a lot of turmoil happening in this world of ours right now, and I want to see firsthand tomorrow morning, right, who's really in control. Don't forget, guys, to join our free trial. Don't forget to register for our newsletter on our blog at Sideways Markets. And don't forget to send me your feedback, guys and gals. I would love to get your feedback, making this newsletter better every single day of the week. Thanks so much for joining me here today. I do my newsletter Monday through Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Hope you found value in this. Don't forget to send me your feedback. And please share this with a friend. We'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to learn it so you can earn it. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.